Welcome in, everybody, to the First Call podcast. Every week, Jeff Siegel and I take a look at 8 stakes races over the course of the coming weekend. We've got a bonus for you with the Sunday stakes as well this week, so a lot to go over. Jeff Siegel, this is a big weekend. Kentucky Derby Trail really heats up. 4 preps around the world, from New Mexico to Dubai, and many important ports of call in between. It's going to be a fun weekend.
It is, and with Dubai racing, I'm very much interested in UAE Derby. I really think there's a colt in there that might even come over here if he performs up to snuff there. We know that the Dubai Derby, the UAE Derby, doesn't usually have a lot of impact in Kentucky. This might be a different year. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then, of course, some good races stateside as well. So good gambling ahead, good racing, and as you mentioned, getting closer and closer to the first Saturday of May.
Big day at Fairgrounds, big day at Turfway Park. Let's take a look at our menu of stakes that we will look at here over the next 30, 45 minutes or so. From Maidan on Saturday morning, betting is already open as we speak. Advanced wagering at Express Bet and First Bet today on the entire Dubai World Cup Day card. We are going to handicap the UAE Derby and the Dubai World Cup. We'll go to Gulfstream for the Texas Glitter for turf sprinters. Turfway's big card anchored by the Jeff Ruby, $700,000 there. Kentucky Derby prep points on the line. Then we'll go to Fairgrounds, where is Louisiana Derby Day. Stakes up and down the card. We will look at 3, the Classic, the New Orleans Classic in the Breeders' Cup Classic division, the Fairgrounds Oaks for the 3-year-old fillies in the Louisiana Derby. We'll go out to Santa Anita for the Desert Stormer for the Distaff Sprinters. A little Sunday bonus where it is Sunland Park Derby Day on Sunday in New Mexico. So a lot to take a look at, Jeff. Let's start our discussion in Dubai. Again, first race, 7:30 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. Again, advanced wagering already open. Some decent American interest as we look across, but not what we've seen in past years. The numbers are decent here, but we do not have the superstar horses loaded up for the Dubai World Cup. Just 2 in the Dubai World Cup, those being Country Grammar, last year's winner, the defending champ for Bob Baffert, Super Corinto from South America via Gulfstream Park. Now, also will throw the hat in the ring. Probably the biggest name on the undercard is Goodnight. Cheryl Spite tries the Dubai turf, representing Canada and the U.S., if you will. And then the UAE Derby. There are 3 Americans in here, 2 trained by Doug O'Neill, Ajiz and Tall Boy. They've already run over in the UAE. And then the Worcester, the maiden for Bob Baffert, going in the UAE Derby as well. Let's start our handicapping with the Derby, Jeff. I know that you've got your eye on a horse not among the American contingent in there. Who did you like in the UAE Derby?
I think number 3 on the program. I'm not sure what post he's got because they mess it up that way, but he is number 3. I can tell you that. His name is Cairo, and he's actually an Irish bred, but he's by Quality Road. This is a Coolmore homebred, and he is a very genuine and a high quality prospect. He's been first or second all 5 of his starts. He had a very 2-year-old campaign, was a group winner at Leopardstown back in October on grass. Then they brought him back, they being Aidan O'Brien, in the listed race called the Patton Stakes. And visually, I thought it was very impressive. He never took a deep breath. He pressed the issue in hand, just galloped along, never exerted 50% of his energy in winning, and did so with a triple-digit time form rating. Every race he's run, he's gotten faster, and he's got that great tactical speed. And the Quality Roads, they get better with age. I watched this race as you will, and I think you'll be impressed as much as I was.
Let's go to the Dundalk Stakes in Ireland with Cairo last out.
Cairo, who hits the front, just leads to the final furlong. News at 10. All Things Nice over on the far side. Then Cash Out and Stormy Entry is next, being followed by Miss Caruso. But it's Cairo in front as they run up towards the finish. Is holding. News at 10. Stormy Entry. Cash Out will be 4th as Cairo makes it a patent winning start.
So good return to the races there for Cairo. What do you make of Worcester in here, Jeff? This is the Bob Baffert trained maiden. It's going to get some play. Frankie Dettori and Baffert. This is a horse who's been knocking heads with good horses. He just can't beat his stablemates. Newgate beat him. Hijazi beat him. Faustin beat him. Probably any one of those 3 horses would be favored maybe in this race. So what do you make of Worcester?
Well, I liked him originally, and then I watched him closely, and he's a nice horse, and he's a maiden, but he's a nice horse. What will prevent him, I think, from being a top horse is he doesn't really have that turn of foot, that acceleration. He's a grinder. Now, he's going to like a mile and 3/16 over there. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
You can't ride him like a turf horse because he's not going to give you that instant 0 to 60 acceleration. But I think that's going to work over there. And I think he's dangerous. He's a good measuring stick for Cairo because I think Cairo is going to be a good colt. But if he's going to be a good colt, he's going to have to beat Worcester. And I think those are the two. And he's going to have to do it and sell. But Cairo's got much more tactical speed. He switches off beautifully. That race that we saw was actually a two-turn, a middle distance mile race. He's going to go 2 turns now, which I think will be better for him. But Worcester will like that long stretch. So if he beats Worcester, then he has to beat Worcester for them to think that he's a Kentucky Derby type candidate. I think he will. But that's what makes this race so intriguing because we have a representative American horse facing a Euro that could be pretty good.
5 Japanese runners, I believe, entered in the UAE Derby, many of them with designs on coming to Churchill if they can get through on the points. The 150, 20, 10, 5, however it breaks down there, the 100 to the top. I think it's 140 for second now in these races, and then down through the point system. So if they can maybe 1-2 finish, maybe even 1-2-3 would get you in, depending on how the points shake out this year. But the Japanese horses in there certainly haven't interest in coming forward to Louisville if they can make it to the big one. Let's go to the big one on Saturday at Meydan. It's the $12 million Dubai World Cup. Next up, a field of 15. All 15 will start in here, barring any scratches, but no also eligible list. This is a field of 15. Dubai World Cup, of course, at 1.25 miles. It's been a race that's had a lot of American success over the years with some superstar type horses. Last year, it was Country Grammar winning the Dubai World Cup over this track. Jeff, he's back to defend his title. A top 2 finish will make Country Grammar the all-time leading earner in the history of North American racing. He'll pass 17 point whatever million it is for Arrowgate. Things that just don't belong on lists. Country Grammar as the rich horse in the history of North American racing just doesn't feel right. But if he becomes a 2-time Dubai World Cup winner, there'll be some arguments to debate that he's better than we've given him a lot of credit for.
Well, it depends on how you define greatness. I'll give him credit. The connections have managed him properly. They know what he can do, and they've let him do it. They go overseas with these incredibly rich races, and while no one's going to mistake him for any superstar over here, that's where the money's made. And Country Grammar, who was a very good second in the Saudi Cup after the race, Frankie Dettori, who wrote him, said he just ran out of room. He's just 1.25 mile horse, not 1.125 miles. And that's true. And it's funny because the 3 main players here are all drawn way on the outside. Algiers, the local horse, has won his last start by almost 13 lengths and has earned very good time form ratings in the process. 6-year-old gelding, but clearly has found a home on dirt. Country Grammar, and then Pantalassa, who beat Country Grammar. He's way on the outside. So we'll see if that Saudi Cup form holds up. I don't see any reason why Country Grammar won't run well. He always does. Except for the fact that he couldn't see flight line with a telescope in the Pacific Classic. But other than that, he's right there, and he's obviously in form. And I don't know if there's a gamble here, but Country Grammar, there's no reason why he shouldn't run well and maybe win again.
Let's go back last month to the Saudi Cup where Pantalassa lasted on the front end, but Country Grammar was getting to it.
Behind these is Country Grammar, who's got work to do, and Jun Light Bolt towards the inside. Pantalassa moves back to the rails, has the advantage. Geoglyph in second place. Then between horses, Cafe Pharaoh, Japan all over the place here. They have the first 4. Pantalassa trying to last home. In second place, Geoglyph. Right down the outside, Country Grammar is staying on, but Pantalassa is lasting home. At the moment, 50 yards to go. Pantalassa, Country Grammar on the sea late, but too late. Pantalassa takes it for Japan.
Speed situation. Pantalassa had the rail that day, went right to the front, took all the charge and dominance of the race, and at 1.125 miles that was good enough. 1.25 miles outside draw, different speed scenario in here. I think Ben Duke, the local horse, is going to show some speed in here, so it's going to be a tougher task for Pantalassa. If you got him last time at the $30+ Mutual, that's when you wanted it. And congrats to Michelle Yu. She had that pick for us in the Express Bet blog for the Saudi Cup. She's got some analysis of some of the races on the Dubai card that you want to check out at First Bet and Express Bet for the Dubai World Cup card as well. So a lot to like there. I also made this the race of the week for Express Bet. Jeff, I really liked Algiers' last couple wins. These 2 wins in the Maktoum Challenge, round 1, round 2, then sat out the 3rd one to be fresh in here. Simon Christopher, the former head man for the Godolphin charges, now out on his own training. He's got a legitimate chance to win one in his own name here versus working with the Big Blue. I think Algiers look fantastic. I mean, the race replays back one video of Algiers, and you'll see a horse just level off and zoom at the end. And I think it's going to make him tough. And you know how it goes. I mean, these locally based horses show up in this race, and they run otherworldly races some years. So we'll see how it shakes out. Country Grammar's going to have to be on top of his game. But like you said, he's just so reliable. You can expect him to run his race. It's just a matter of somebody's more brilliant.
Right. No, Algiers he's the X factor here for sure. Home court advantage and vastly improved, obviously, on dirt. And not sure who he was beating, but I mean, he doesn't have to do much more than that. And I say Time Form gave him a whopping number. So they were impressed, whoever they are, but Time Form. And so you're right with them. And I would absolutely think that he's the one that Country Grammar has to fear most.
Let's go to the schedule now and move along to the domestic races on Saturday, March 25th. We're going to start at Gulfstream Park, and this one will go about 2 o'clock Eastern, a little after 2. The Texas Glitter Stakes, 5 furlongs on the turf here. These are 3-year-old grass sprinters, Jeff, a field of 7. How do you see the Texas Glitter shaking out?
Never really thought Christophe Clement was a specialist with turf sprinting 3-year-olds, but he had a great one last year, and he's got another one here. Dr. Osaran is a lightly raced Kitten's Joy colt, and second in his debut last year as a 2-year-old, and came back later in the year in December, won a race, and then his most recent race was an allowance race, and he looked terrific. His Bayard numbers have gone from 60 to 70 to 85 in just 3 starts so far. He's probably going to produce another forward move, and as quick as he is, if you look at this is a race of 5 furlong sprint, Jeremy. There isn't that much race. I think he's going to clear the field without any issue at all. And watching his last race, he looks spectacular to me.
He could be the follow-up to Big Invasion. Let's go back and look at his win at Gulfstream and Allowance Company back in early February.
Dr. Osaran has the lead off the corner, leads by 2.5. Second is Rock and Roller, Take Care of Business now. Third, then Ship the Goods. There's an 1/8 of a mile to go, and Dr. Osaran just continues to roll. Dr. Osaran on the board at 3-1, wins easy by 3 in the end. Rock and Roller second, Ship the Goods third, then Take Care of Business and Syndicated.
He's going to stay turf sprinting, but there's a future going a little longer there, obviously. He's by Kitten's Joy out of a Street Sense mare, so this could be a really nice 3-year-old miler as this season progresses. Let's see what Dr. Osaran has for us in race number 4 on Saturday. Now let's go next to Turfway Park for the Jeff Ruby. It's the feature race on a big card there. I believe, 15 races. It'll be the 12th of 15. Here's a look at the field of 12 that is entered in the Jeff Ruby. This is a grade 3 mile and an 1/8 on the synthetic Tapeta surface now. Of course, for many years it was Polytrack at Turfway, but a few years back switched over to Tapeta, still a synthetic surface here. And Mike Maker has really dominated the Jeff Ruby and the Spiral, or whatever you want to call it, in its iterations over the years, winning it 6 times since the conversion to a synthetic surface. Maker's going to have number 5 in here, Maker's Candy, which could be a nice price in here, who has never tried the synthetic. But Maker's Candy by Twirling Candy, certainly a sire that can get a winner over the synthetic track. Interesting footnote there if you're looking to play somebody who's had a lot of success. And a lot of these Maker winners in the Jeff Ruby over the years have been nice priced horses. So a little historical nugget on that one. But in terms of handicapping this field, Jeff, I'm not so sure that Maker's Candy is going to be a huge factor, going from a 1-turn dirt race at Aqueduct to going the mile and an 1/8 on the Tapeta. I've got my eye on a horse. I'll start off the handicapping here because I absolutely love Wadsworth. I can't like a horse any more than I like Wadsworth on Saturday. I think his 2 races, if you watch these 2 at Turfway, were just a horse who freaks over the synthetic. The first one he won by 10 lengths, where he had the rail that day, so they just said go to the front. He really didn't look like a front runner on paper and never shown speed, but he was good enough to just go to the front that day and blow off and win by 10. The next time he got in traffic trouble, he's behind horses the whole way. He was only able to run about an eighth of a mile at the end, and he just galloped clear at the end. I really think everything in this race is run for second money. I think Wadsworth is going to win this race and win it by a distance. I think this is one that Brad Cox has had this race circled since February, saying this is my horse for the Jeff Ruby. And Cox has won everything around the country. I mean, anything east of California has been Brad Cox's to dominate so far this year. So I'm taking Wadsworth in here. Who do you like in the Jeff Ruby?
Well, Wadsworth, to me, looks very similar to Fantastic again, because they're both perked up on the Tapeta at Turfway.
Yep.
Wadsworth has got the 11 hole, which means it could be a little bit problematic, but maybe not, going a mile and an eighth. And Landeros is riding and knows him well, and this is his main horse for sure. And at 8-1, which is what he's listed on the morning line, I don't know whether you can do much better than that. The one that I latched onto, and he's 6-1, and I'll take that as well, is Fantastic one for Wesley Ward. Now, he won a race 2 races back, an allowance race, first time on the all-weather, and he did that as easy as he just laughed at those horses, but he didn't beat much, and you don't know really how good they are when they get loose in the lead like that, when they just outclass the field. He came back in his next start, and he won again a race called the Leonidas, and did that on the lead. I can't say that he needs the lead to win. He's just so much quicker and faster that he just does it. But I love the way he switches off and then re-breaks. And both times, I mean, you don't really get this comment in the forum that often. One for fun, impressive. But he did. And he never took a deep breath. And I think both of these horses, Fantastic again and Wadsworth, have a very, very good chance to run 1-2 or 2-1, whatever order you want. Over Major Dude, who I thought was very impressive on the grass and winning the Kitten's Joy when he wore down Candidate, went by him like he was standing still. But Major Dude doesn't have that all-weather form either. So this, again, normally I would watch this race, Jeremy, the Jeff Ruby Stakes, and kind of dismiss it, but not this time. This is a good race, and between Wadsworth at 8-1 and Fantastic again at 6-1, they're both good prices. I mean, I'm watching this race, and it's 6:25 in the East. Sunlight will still be out there, and I'm going to watch this race, and I don't know whether I'll play exactas, tries, whatever the case is, but there's a chance for some serious money making opportunity here if you can get Major Dude beat, who's a good colt, but I don't know about the all weather.
Let's take a look at your top pick, Fantastic again, in a romping win in the Leonidas.
As they race around the turn, still chasing Fantastic again, and Fantastic again will turn them on down under confident handling in the 33rd edition of the Leonidas. Turning for home, Fantastic again, showing the way, and with a furlong to go, Fantastic again is on cruise control. The jockey just simply a passenger, 3 lengths for the back to Ironsides and American Speed, but they're inside the final 16th. What a performance here. Fantastic again was pounds the best. Fantastic again was never asked to run, goes coast to coast in 1:37 flat to take the 33rd running of the Leonidas Stake.
All you have with Corrales and Ward teaming up at Turfway, it's a 36% jockey trainer combo. So you've got a lot of arsenal in your toolbox to work with there as well. Going to be a good addition of the Jeff Ruby. Let's take our attention now to Fairgrounds on Saturday, where it's Louisiana Derby Day, and a series of stakes races that we will handicap. Start with race number 9. It's the New Orleans Classic. Again, these are the older horses. Horses in the Breeders' Cup Classic division, perhaps, as we get towards season then, maybe dirt mile type horses as well. Among those is Art Collector. Art Collector last seen winning the Pegasus World Cup in handy fashion.
Quarter of a mile to come. It's Art Collector in front. Defunded counter punches from the inside second. Back to third, it's Stiletto Boy. Nothing much running home from the back. Last Samurai for a slice, but Art Collector is kicked clear. Art Collector in the colors of Bruce Lunford. They're going to win the Pegasus World Cup going away. Art Collector and Junior Alvarado win by 4 in the end. Defunded was second. Stiletto Boy ran third.
So, Jeff, the natural question, Art Collector wins the lucrative Pegasus World Cup. They're running the Dubai World Cup the same day for $12 million. overseas. The New Orleans Classic, a great race and $500,000 in its own right, but that ain't 12 million. So Art Collector in this spot versus Dubai, make some sense of it for us.
Well, maybe Bill Mott doesn't feel like it would be in the horse's best interest to run over there. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say his medication issues or anything like that. I don't know. But I can tell you this, that if he were to run back to that race that we just saw here, he's going to win again. And it's not like Art Collector hasn't won back-to-back races. Sometimes you look at a horse, he wins, and you just know he's going to bounce the next time and not perform. But Art Collector actually has a history of stringing good races together. When he wins, he usually wins the next time too, And after pulverizing a good field that has, in a race that has proven to be highly productive, there was nothing flukish about that win, nor was there any flukish about the career top equaling 107 Beyer number. I don't see any reason why Art Collector won't come back and duplicate that field. It's not as tough a field, and the way he's been handled at age 6 now, I think Bill Mott's thinking, I'm not going to get too. It's not a money thing with this horse. I want his reputation to be, restore that. He's 111 on 21. I like him. I hope he runs back to his last race. We could use a really good version of Art Collector. And by the way, it's not like he just good. He won the Woodward. He's won a Grade 1 race. He did that 2 years ago. So I think Art Collector will win again. Unless you can talk me into something that you're afraid of. I don't know. I think he'll win.
No, I don't have any knock at all. I mean, maybe just, look, the poor performance in the Saudi Cup last year, and then it took him 5 months to get back after that.
Yeah.
Maybe they said, let's not go across the world again. I mean, the money's attractive, but it didn't work last time, and it knocked out half a season. So, Art Collector taking a little more conservative path there, but I think it's a good, smart path for him. I think he should handle this field. It's a good field, though. West Willpower's got some speed in here. Treasury's got speed. There'll be no lack of pace in here. Pioneer of Medina wants to be somewhat forwardly placed. So Art Collector, just as he did in the Pegasus, the thought was most of his good races were kind of in the front, right? And could he sit and then pounce and win? He proved that at Gulfstream with a very short stretch at Gulfstream compared to, I think it's like 900 feet to something like that, even a little shade under that, like 890. And now he gets Fairgrounds and all their 1,400 feet to work with. So Art Collector should be the one to handle here. I'm a big fan of Rattle and Roll. I've been a fan of this horse for a while. I was really hoping they would run him in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile last year, and they ended up going in that marathon at a mile and 5/8, and I was just scratching my head. I thought turning him back and sharpening him up was like the thing to do. He gets a mile and 1/8 here. It's on the comeback. He hasn't run. Kenny's a pretty conservative trainer when it comes to like layoff horses like this. So Rattle and Roll may not run a winning race, but I think it's going to set him up for something next. And he could be a horse for Stephen Foster, races like that as we get into summer. But I'm a big fan of Rattle and Roll, and I hope he has a really good 4-year-old year. He had a good 3-year-old year, not a great one, but he's a horse I think we want to keep our eye on in the handicap division moving forward. He may not be the very top of it, but I think he's going to be one of those horses who can punch in a lot of the big races throughout the course of the year. Let's turn the page to race number 11 on Saturday at Fairgrounds. It's the Fairgrounds Oaks. This has been the telltale prep for the Kentucky Oaks over the last 10, 20 years. This race really has a strong springboard effect into the Kentucky Oaks. I would expect this field to have a say when we get to the first Friday in May. Pretty mischievous won the Rachel Alexandra. The Alice Look won the Silver Bullet Day. Those were the two major preps coming into this race. Hoosier Philly was all the rage after winning the Golden Rod last year. Man, she had a flat return at 2-5 odds in the Rachel Alexandra when running third. Let's go back to when she was at her best, Hoosier Philly, and then we'll get Jeff's take on whether he thinks she can get back there.
Willingly and easily kicks away by 3. Hoosier Philly by the 8th pole by 4 now. Pure Pauline, knock your socks off. Pretty Mischievous, Defining Purpose. Hoosier Philly with a 5-length lead, 100 yards to go. It's another flawless performance. Hoosier Philly, they're thinking first Friday in May now. Under the wire, wrapped up by 6.
Jeff, I don't know if we will ever know what happened in her return race in the Rachel Alexandra when she was beaten 8+ lengths by Pretty Mischievous, but her work since then seemed to indicate she's perked back up, and What do you think we're going to get? Which version do you think we'll get Saturday?
I have a lot of respect for Tom Amoss as a trainer, and he had to be, shocked at the poor performance that Hoosier Philly turned in the comeback. And sometimes the trainer will say, I don't know what went wrong. Maybe she just doesn't like the track. I mean, that was old Charlie Whittingham. So excuse for every loss. I love Charlie, but he didn't like the track. And I always say, how do you know he didn't? Like, did you talk to the horse? Did he tell you that? I don't know. But the reason why I'm picking her back is because I don't think Tom thought that was the reason. If he thought it was the reason, then he probably wouldn't be running her back at the fairgrounds. He'd keep her somewhere else.
It should be in the Ashland or something. Yeah.
Somewhere, yeah. But she apparently has satisfied him in the morning, especially with that minute breezing fastest of 21 bullet work the other day, that would allow him to think, I have her tight now. I have her ready. And by the way, she didn't break that day. She got bumped. I think she might have just got mad or something. I don't know what it was, but she never really looked like she was going well. But she continues to train well. Now she's outside, which I think is fine because now he can kind of pick her spot, go where he wants, move when he wants to move, And if Hoosier Philly is going to recapture her 2-year-old filly form, which a lot of them they don't for whatever reason, but if she is, this is the place to do it. And it's not like, Pretty Mischievous beat her last time, but she'd handled her easily in the Goldenrod. It's not like she was better than her. Hoosier Philly ran down to her level. Okay, let's see if she can rise to the occasion. I'm going to gamble that she can and will. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think you're going to see the real Hoosier Philly in the Fairgrounds Oaks. That's the way I see the race.
Field of 5, but somebody pretty good is going to run third in here, or worse. But with Pretty Mischievous, the Alice Look, and Hoosier Philly, you've got 3 of the top 5, 6 Kentucky Oaks contenders showing up in this spot. Wet Paint will go to the Ashland. That horse was favored in a lot of the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks future wagers. So Wet Paint may be the favorite for the Kentucky Oaks at this point, but any one of these 3 fillies with a strong performance in the Fairgrounds Oaks may step right into that role as the top filly to contest this year's Kentucky Oaks. Let's go next to the Louisiana Derby feature race on the card Saturday in New Orleans. They've got 12. This is the 12th race on the program. Mile and 3/16 for the Louisiana Derby, and a big field showing up here. A field of 12. One of those horses not in the field is Angel of Empire, the winner of the Risen Star Stakes, the most recent prep for the Louisiana Derby. Angel of Empire expected to go either Arkansas Derby or to Keeneland for the Bluegrass Stakes. But Brad Cox is not without weaponry, even without Angel of Empire not running in this spot. He's got Lecomte winner Instant Coffee in the field. He's also got a shot in here towards the outside of the gate with Tappett's Conquest, who was 4th in the Risen Star, and Jace's Road, a horse who won the Gunrunner Stakes before a poor effort in the Southwest last time out at Oaklawn. Jace's Road's interesting in here, Jeff. If you take the 2 sloppy track races off of his form, he looks awfully good. Now, how's he going to show up here on Saturday at Fairgrounds? I hear there is a forecast for rain. So Jason's Road is hoping that rain stays away, I think, based on his past performance lines. There's not a lot of early speed in here, and I can see Jason's Road going to the front in this spot. And if he does, gets a dry track, maybe he could rebound in this particular spot. You never eliminate the Brad Cox horses, especially in these races at Fairgrounds. Again, he's won every race in the series, going back to the Gunrunner with Jason's Road. He won the Lecomte with Instant Coffee. He won the Risen Star with Angel of Empire. It's been a Brad Cox sweep, and he's 1-2 in a couple of those races, 1-2 finishes in a couple of those races. So for me, you got to start at least with Brad Cox in the discussion.
No question about that. Instant Coffee is won 3 out of 4, and he is a colt that he's not a deep closer, but he's a closer. Should like the mile and 3/16 distance, although sometimes these mile and 3/16 races, they have no pace, and it's kind of a merry-go-round kind of effect. And in looking at this race, I can't see it. I can't see a fast pace at all. I can see a normal to slow pace. And that's one of the reasons why I'm going to gamble against Instant Coffee, although I certainly respect him. And even if he doesn't win this race, he's a legitimate Derby type horse, Kentucky. To me, Disarm at 10-1 in the morning line, he's got a chance with an aggressive approach here from Steve Asmussen and Joel Rosario to really pull off an upset. I like it. He's in the 5 hole. You have to let him run out of there. You have to ask him to show tactical speed here. Otherwise, he'll drop the bit. It'll get behind horses. He doesn't have a great turn of foot. He's not the kind of horse who's going to make up a lot of ground. But if you put him where he needs to be early in the race, which is to be either first, second, or third, which he is more than capable of doing in this race, I think Disarm's got a really good chance to pull off an upset. Now, he's given a race first time out last summer, third, beaten 2 lengths in a 5.5 furlong sprint. That was fine. I didn't care. They were going to bring him to Saratoga, and then they ran him 7/8 at Saratoga in early August, and he won. And being by a son of gun runner, he won like a colt that was going to be somebody, and maybe there's still a chance for him to do that. But his Saratoga win was very impressive to me.
Let's go back and take a look at it.
Ride as they come through the stretch, and it is Disarm in front with a 16th to the finish. Disarm now drawing away from the field, and Disarm gets his maiden breaker impressively here at Saratoga, won by better than a half dozen lengths.
So Disarm will be stepping up and making his stakes debut in the Louisiana Derby, as will the horse next to him, King's Barnes, for trainer Todd Pletcher. Pletcher's won the Louisiana Derby multiple occasions. He brings this one in off a race at Tampa Bay Downs. John White, in his analysis that he writes up each week, takes a strong look at the Triple Crown races. He likes King's Barnes on Saturday. And I got a text from Eddie Olczyk yesterday that said he likes King's Barnes as well. So John and Eddie are both on King's Barnes in here. Jeff, let's talk about this horse. This is a runner who is 2 for 2 lifetime. He's won around 1 turn. He's won around 2 turns. But this is a step up in class from that Tampa allowance.
And it really doesn't surprise anybody that he's been shipped around a little bit, because Todd's loaded, you know. I mean, he's got to separate his good colts. Yeah, he won first time out at Gulfstream, and then he sent him, and primarily the reason why he sent him to Tampa Bay for that allowance race was because he wanted to get some experience around 2 turns, which he wouldn't have had a chance to do unless he ran him, say, in the Fountain of Youth or one of those races at Gulfstream. So the fact that he ran him at Tampa does not mean that he's just good enough to win at Tampa. He just needed to separate his good colts. I don't know how good King's Barnes is. This is his 3rd different rider in 3 starts. That may or may not mean anything, but he's an $800,000 2-year-old in training by Uncle Mo. So, I mean, to me, the sky's the limit for him, and we'll find out how good he is. Numbers-wise, he's progressive. That's all you can ask at this stage. He's not blazingly fast, but he's fast enough. And why couldn't he be part of that first flight too, Jeremy? I mean, he's got.
Yeah, I think that's where he's going to be. I think the 5 and 6 kind of go together. Disarm and King's Barnes. Not a lot of speed to their inside, the 1 through 4s we talked about, so they can kind of break, move over, and be in the 1-2 path going into the clubhouse turn. I would think those are probably the first 2 showing. And then Jace's Road from the outside in the 11 hole is going to try to go and cross over some horses and could be 3 wide into the clubhouse turn. But that's kind of the way I see a pace in the Fairgrounds main event, the Louisiana Derby, that just doesn't have a lot of early speed. This will be about rider decisions, tactics, and strategy, and who wants to be aggressive. Because if you are aggressive, you'll probably end up on the front end in here. There's just not a lot of natural speed to drag some of the others there, regardless of rider decision. So this will be a very tactical race. Didn't mention Sun Thunder yet, but just want to throw him in there. Runner up in the Risen Star, beaten just a length by Angel of Empire, who got the jump on him that day. Sun Thunder's a really quality into mischief colt for Kenny McPeak. This is a horse who just finishes and brings his game every time. He's probably going to be pace compromised in this race and probably can't win the race because of that. But I think this is a true 1.25 type horse out of a Medaglia d'Oro mare. And I think Sun Thunder is a Kentucky Derby kind of horse that you'll want to consider for the exotics when we get to the first Saturday in May. If you like this horse, you're just looking for a top 4 finish in here. You don't want to see a terrible run from Sun Thunder where, you know, even if it's a slow pace and he just does nothing and only splits the field, you want to see a top 4 finish with a horse who's finishing up nicely if they're going to be a contender in Louisville. But if you like those closers from off the pace, there are so many of them in this year's crop. There's very little early speed in this year's crop, but Sun Thunder fits that profile of horses who tend to have a shot at the Super when we get to the first Saturday in May. He's a horse I think we want to keep an eye on. Let's just see him finish up a little bit here on the back end on Saturday. All right, that's a look at the Louisiana races. Let's go now to Santa Anita on Saturday. No racing at the Great Race Place on Friday because of heavy rains throughout the course of the week. Jeff just left for Las Vegas to avoid the rain, I think, but and some basketball as well. But Jeff at Santa Anita on Saturday. The Desert Stormer, the feature race Saturday at Santa Anita. We're going to go 6 furlongs on the main track here. Just a field of 5. You would think a sprint race field of 5 that horses with some speed would be pretty dangerous in this kind of spot.
It's not much of a race, really. Just 5. Elm Drive shows up here. We haven't seen it since last summer or early fall. Now in the Phil D'Amato barn. That's usually a really good positive angle, first time D'Amato. And Elm Drive is back where we know she likes the track. She won the Angel Flight last year. Numbers wise, she's okay. She's not brilliantly fast, but then nobody in this race is. It's just a good spot for a filly like her. And it's a graded stakes, no less. So it's going to look good in the catalog page, even though it's just a $100,000 purse. But I'm going to assume that she's going to return to her form here at Santa Anita for D'Amato. Nothing flashy about the workout. She was over at Low South. She should be fit enough. And, if it's not her in a race, it's another sprint race with not a lot of zip in it. I think I'm not sure who would win it. So I don't think there's a gamble here at 6-5, but I do think Elm Drive is logical and probably will win. The Desert Stormer.
She made the lead in the Angel Flight. Same kind of tactics in this race where there's not a lot of speed, not a lot of challengers to take her on. Could end up in the same kind of result.
They head to the 8th pole. Elm Drive, powerful on the front end, opens up 3. And it's all Elm Drive. Kirsten Bosch with a belated rally down the center of the track, battling with Empire Gal and Unsolved Mystery. In fact, Kirsten Bosch gets into second, but Elm Drive dominant in victory.
We'll see Elm Drive back with Phil D'Amato, back at Santa Anita, and very likely back in the winner's circle in the Desert Storm. Let's go to our final handicapping test of the weekend, Jeff. It's Sunday. We're going to throw a 9th race in this week for a little extra bonus. It's the Sunland Derby, $600,000 grade 3. Mile and an 1/8 here, 50 Kentucky Derby points to the winner and down through for second, third, and fourth place finishes. But we have one horse in here, Jeff, who is not eligible for any Kentucky Derby points because Bob Baffert is still the trainer of Hard to Figure. And because he is, that horse is not eligible to accrue any Kentucky Derby points. Could be a prep towards the Preakness Stakes. Could be just a good opportunity to run for 600 Gs. What do you make of Hard to Figure in the field for the Sunland Derby?
Well, we've got 7, but I think we're only going to have 6 because I've been told that Fort Bragg is not going to make the trip. In fact, he's supposed to go to Florida for the Florida Derby. So lose Fort Bragg. That means it's just here. Hard to Figure. He ran well into Lewis. I mean, much better than I thought. It was a 4-horse field, and he was 12-1 in that race. So nobody thought he was going to run very well. But he did. And you're in a triple-digit buyer number. Trained well since. He's a logical major contender here. But then you have Henry Q, who won the prep in this race, Mind That Bird rep. He had run at Santa Anita also, not against the same level of competition that Hard to Figure. But he was impressive. He's a blame colt who's only run 4 times, getting nothing but better. And he earned a very strong 93 buyer number just kind of galloping along when he won the Mind That Bird Derby over the same track. And he wasn't even trying. So how good is Henry Q? I think we'll find out. I think this is a really nice colt. I think he can win.
If you haven't seen Henry Q, take a look here.
It looks like he's got this one all put away, and he's getting stronger as the race grows longer. It's Henry Q by 5. Henry Q pouring it on here. Certainly looks like a Sunland Derby contender to me. It's Henry Q by an awesome 10 lengths here in the Mind That Bird Derby. Second, Garuvan. It's close for third between Wild on Ice and Malmo.
In a race of his own that day. Now, one thing about Henry Q, he has not nominated the Triple Crown at this point. That doesn't mean he can't get points. A horse not nominated the Triple Crown can still gain points. So if they win this race, they'll have 50 points. They'll have a spot in the Derby if they nominate late and supplement to the Triple Crown. That would seem to be the path when you cash a purse for $600,000. The winner's share of that race is going to be almost $400,000. They'll have no trouble paying the late supplemental fee into the Triple Crown at that point if they want to run. So because you don't see that little crown in the past performances next to Henry Q, don't dismiss that as the fact that this horse can't be a Kentucky Derby or a Triple Crown starter It's just he has to pay a late supplemental fee to get into the race at this point because they didn't do the early nomination back late January, early February. So Henry Q with a big effort, Jeff, I would have to think would be a horse that they would certainly consider moving forward with. I agree with you. I think he's the horse to beat in this spot. Hard to Figure is a good one, though. There's no real knock. The thing with Hard to Figure, though, is if you look at the last two running lines, and this is like whether it's Sunland Park on a Derby day or Sunland Park on a Thursday, when you see the last running line, the finish position, as they go across the page, when that margin consistently gets bigger than the margin in the previous column, these horses are just losing ground at the stretch. They hang, they flatten out, they give way a little bit. If you look at Hard to Figure, other than the race that he won, he's given ground at the last call, from the last call to the finish every single time. Now he's trying to go even further, from 1 16th to 1 1/8. I tend to try to play against those horses, but I'll also obviously admit in this spot, he was giving ground to much, much better horses than he's facing here today. So he might get 1 1/8 against these horses. But horses like that, I would not want at 1 1/8 against really good horses. And that might be why Hard to Figure is still with Baffert. He's by Hard Spun out of a Mr. Greeley mare. That's kind of miler on miler pedigree. They may not look at this horse as a 1 1/4 horse for the Derby anyway. That's why he didn't ship out of Bob's Barn, because they knew they weren't going to Kentucky with him. But can he win 1 1/8 against this level of competition? Absolutely. And there's 600,000 good reasons to take that chance.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is that you can see who owns this horse, Jeremy. Bob's friends, Peregrine, Watson, Weltman. They do what Bob tells them to do, basically, and then and so consequently, I think they're thinking, let's not go from level C to level A yet. Let's kind of gradually move him up the ladder, and then if he's good enough to run the Preakness, that's great. But it'll be interesting to see, because I think Henry Q's pretty good. I really do. And this is he's not just some local New Mexico horse who might be fast. This is really a Santa Anita horse, trained by Doug O'Neill. Will be trained by Doug O'Neill, I'm pretty sure, when he goes through. And by the way, leave no doubt, because I know this for a fact, talking to Mick and his dad Hep, Henry Q is going to the Kentucky Derby if he's in there. And 500 of his closest friends will be with him from Cincinnati. So this is a colt that is destined for Kentucky. Whether or not he belongs, he's going to be there, but he will belong. Don't get me wrong. And if he wins, as I expect him to win, next step, Churchill, guaranteed.
And we've talked a lot. There's not a lot of speed in this year's crop. There's very few front runners that have done any damage in any of the preps. They've almost all been won by come from behinders. If he goes wire to wire again here at Sunland like he did in the Mine Emperor Derby, he could be the controlling speed in the Kentucky Derby. I mean, we're getting the cart ahead of the horse, but that is what you do this time of year. That's the fun part about it. That will wrap up our 9 stakes races that we handicapped this week on the First Call podcast. Want to remind you, a lot going on this weekend. Early bird wagering already open today at ExpressBet and FirstBet for tomorrow's Dubai World Cup card. Dubai World Cup program starts at 7:30 a.m. Eastern. The main race will be at 12:35 Eastern. So right around the start of Gulfstream and all the afternoon action on Saturday, we'll have the Dubai World Cup right there to pass the baton on to a big day of racing. Huge day at Turfway, huge day at Fairgrounds. Big day on Sunday at Sunland Park. So a lot going on. We've got a mandatory payout in the Rainbow Six on Sunday at Golden Gate Fields. Be sure to follow Matt Dinnerman at 3 Colts Handicap on Twitter and at the Golden Gate Fields website. We'll also get some of his thoughts onto the pages at ExpressBet and FirstBet by Sunday for his thoughts on the races Sunday at Golden Gate Fields. Again, we're $100,000, right at the $100,000 mark right now in carryover. By the time we get to Sunday, maybe we're looking at $130,000 carryover for that mandatory. If you like to play handicapping tournaments, a couple $80 feeders over the next few days for next week's big Florida Derby Day handicapping tournament. So play now for $80. Win your way into the big handicapping tournament next weekend. I think there's $80 feeders coming up on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this week. And also a note, Santa Anita, no racing today, as we mentioned. They are adding Monday to the racing program this week at Santa Anita. So still a 3-day racing week as you cross over. It's Saturday, Sunday, and Monday this week at Santa Anita. One more note I'll give you before we head out, Jeff. Saturday will be the draw for the Florida Derby. So they draw that race a full week out. Looking forward to seeing Forte against whom? I don't know, but Forte will be the star in the entry box Saturday for the Florida Derby, now just a week away. Your final thoughts, my friend?
I don't think I'll need a week to handicap that race to figure out that Forte is probably going to be the horse to beat. But the undercard, I'm sure, will be loaded up, so we can start doing that. Get a week's worth of videotape watching and workout analysis, and we'll be prepared for a great day of racing at Gulfstream Park a week from tomorrow. And obviously, Santa Anita, my own backyard, will be doing that as well. So good racing. It's starting to really heat up. It's not too it's April madness and then May madness in the thoroughbred sport, and great racing ahead. And again, looking forward to all of that and making some money as well.
Check out all the great content. John White, Michelle Yu, Jeff Siegel, Eddie Olczyk, Al Samaglia with the harness. Frank Caruli's got his place in today for Laurel for their pick 4. I've got stuff all over the website. A lot of great content. Check it out at expressbet.com in the blog section and at news.first.com. Jeff and I will be back on Tuesday with the It's Official podcast to wrap up a huge weekend from Dubai to Sunland Park and everywhere in between. On behalf of everybody at First and Jeff Siegel, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Have a great week. Good luck at the races, everybody.